Welcome to Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. Today is episode number 235. Stay tuned. Hello, all my dear friends. How are you? I am doing so good. Are you loving the beginning of fall? Ooh, I'm really liking it. I'm looking outside in the back of my woods and the trees are just starting to change a little bit. And I always love the change of season because it always reminds me that it's got nothing to do with me. I'm not the one that's bringing in the cold weather. I'm not the one that's changing the colors of the leaves or making them fall. I'm not the one in control. And I just love that reminder all the time. Maybe you need it too. Anywho, what I got for you today is so special because, as you know, for those of you who've been listening to my podcast for a while, and for those of you, if you're just listening for the first time, welcome. But one of the things that I've been doing over the last year maybe is I have a series that I call Life After Working with Dr. Deb Series. And this includes my clients who have worked with me, who have finished with me, who have gone off on their own, and after they've been away for a while, usually about a year, they come back and I interview them and we just talk about what it's been like since they finished the program with me. So today I have a really special guest, one of my clients that I've worked with in the past a lot, and she was on one of my podcasts. That's another thing. Most of the people who are on my Life After Dr. Deb series has also been on a podcast when they first finished my program. So I'll try to link this in the show notes of the first podcast that Julie did with me after she finished my program. And now it's been about a year or so that she stopped working with me. And we've done a lot of work together, and she's back to tell you what it's been like for her. She really is an inspiration. She lost 100 pounds before she even started working with me, hired me because of her fear of gaining the weight back, and her journey with me and managing her mind on all of this. So here we are after our first podcast a year later, and she's here to tell you what it's been like for her. I hope she is as much as an inspiration to you as she has been to me working with her. And I always am reminded by her that what we think, which is what I teach, really does make a difference. So sit back, or if you're taking a walk, enjoy your walk. If you're driving, enjoy your drive. Pay attention to where you're going, but also pay attention to Julie. Here's Julie. Enjoy. Hello, Julie, and welcome to my podcast again.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me again. It's just such a pleasure to see you and have this chance to talk with you and share my life with your listeners again.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of go backwards a little bit for people who may not remember your story, because I would say the first time that you were on was was it a year ago? Over a year ago? I don't even remember.
I almost looked at my calendar just for this question, but no, I think it pretty much was close to a year ago.
I think it was So maybe just if you can remember is just what was going on with you at the time. I'm going to make sure that listeners who are listening to this or watching it, because it's a video now, but I want to make sure that we have the first podcast that you did linked with this podcast, just because I just want to see your own growth, and I want everybody to know that the teaching that I teach just continues. It's not like you stop working and you stop growing, right?
Not at all. I often think of you are the gift I gave myself that continues to keep giving.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
When we started, I had lost all my weight.
Right. So let's tell everybody how much you lost, because it's a number worth saying.
Yeah, I lost, oh gosh, now I don't have the exact number, but well over 100 pounds.
Okay, that's a good enough number.
That's a good enough number. I went from morbidly obese to the healthy weight range. I'm higher than that right now, but I have no no bad feelings about it at all, because I feel like I am exactly where I need to be right now. So I had lost the weight, and when I had done that, I had started it because I had a need that was giving me trouble. And I had a phenomenal physical therapist, and she told me that in addition to you continuing on your weight loss, you need to change your mindset to become an active person. So I went through an
Brilliant.
identity change. Brilliant is right. So I went through an identity change to eat healthy in a manner that I knew I could sustain the rest of my life,
Yep.
because I
And
did not want this to be temporary.
yeah. And so that all happened before we ever met.
We did,
Which
and
is
I was maintaining my weight, but
that's right.
it was edging up, and I had found you looking for weight maintenance.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
And I listened to you for quite a while, and I kept
Mhm.
thinking, well, I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
And and then too, I knew that spending money on myself was an issue. And so I kind of knew that I was hesitant with that, but kept listening to you. And the more I listened to you, the more I thought that I'm not making the kind of progress I wanted. And I had a girlfriend who said, well, let's coach each other. And I thought that sounded like a great idea. So a year went by.
Another year went by. Okay.
And I realized I was not making the progress that I thought I would, because when you had your logo of thinner peace, that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want to white knuckle my life in maintenance.
Yes. And I think that's what was going on with you when we
Exactly.
first started talking, is what I gathered, because you had lost the weight, but you had a lot of fear.
Yes.
And I think that's why you were hiring me at the time, and why you wanted to work, is because you were trying to create peace instead of fear about gaining your weight back.
Exactly. Because, the statistics are phenomenal on weight gain.
Yep.
How many people gain their weight back? And I wanted to be that person that would be thin the rest of my life.
Which is a really wonderful thought to think.
Exactly. And you helping me open up my thoughts and seeing that. So I hired you, and there was a lot of fear in hiring you also. Wonder
really?
If it work. Well, wonder if I spend all this money and it doesn't work. Right?
No.
I mean, I know your listeners are thinking that at times.
I think you're right.
And so I researched you. And I found you on Excellent Coaches in St. Louis. And after listening to you, I really got to know you. I want to thank you for your vulnerability and showing us who you are on your podcast.
I'm glad to hear that.
Because I really felt by the time that I hired you, I kind of knew who I was going to work with.
Well, that is very, very interesting. So I have my podcast, and I talk and I teach. And so did it kind of blend for you that when you actually met me and we had our mini session, did it all feel like that I was still the same person? That's interesting to me.
Absolutely. Only what didn't come through as much is how much you love people. And how compassionate you were, and how much love you showed me. I could almost tear up right now just thinking about this work requires vulnerability.
Yes, it does.
And I came to you a little hesitant to share myself because, do I have flaws or character problems, or is this stuff that is embarrassing? Is it a character flaw? I had a lot of self-judgment.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you did in that mini session was make me feel at ease.
How did I do that?
I don't remember.
Well, but that's the thing. It's like, when you say that, it's really, I did not make you feel at ease.
No.
Right? You know that. Like, I was just being me, and
Absolutely.
you had a thought that it was easy for you to talk to me when you were talking to me.
Right. But it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the video like we have right now, so I can see your glorious smile, right?
Yeah.
But your smile came through on the phone.
Absolutely.
Your compassion came through on the phone. Mm-hmm. The ease with which you asked questions. And I knew at the end of that, you weren't not going to allow something to go by that you knew would help me.
Ah, that's interesting. So you knew that I was, because I do think I am. I don't sugarcoat things.
No, but while you don't sugarcoat things, you do it compassionately.
Yes. Yes. But when I see something,
you bring it out, and you don't point it out point blank. You very gently allowed me to, I'd say you guided me through the process of allowing myself to reveal it to myself.
Ah, I got chills on that.
And then what we did was, as we worked together, you would teach me the tools where I could continue to do this myself. Yeah. Now, I still feel coaching is really important, because there's times where emotionally I get pretty worked up in things. And so it will take me a lot longer to unveil it. Working with you is like doing it in light speed.
I love, that's a wonderful way to look at it. But I also think, because we worked together individually, and then you worked in the master's group for a while. So we had about 9 months where we were working together. And I will say this about you as a client, and I say this for anybody that decides to want to work, that if you're willing to go all in on yourself, because Julie, you were.
Absolutely.
When you decided to do it, you decided to go all in. And I think that's part of the mini session, is you knew after talking to me, you could go all in.
Yes.
And I think that once you made that decision, you never looked back. I think that you were 100% all in on yourself for all 9 months.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the first 12 weeks, we made so much progress.
Yes, you did.
And I really, I like the movie Shrek. And, he talks about the onions. I kind of felt like, it was an onion. We go a layer, and then we go another layer, and then we go another layer. Or you could look at it as a step stairs, where you go up a step and then another step. I mean, there's so many wonderful analogies.
I love that.
And I felt like at the end of 12 weeks, we had made so much progress, but the fear was still there. Mm-hmm. The fear that I did not know all of the tools yet to the point where I was comfortable. Yeah. I knew you were comfortable with the progress we had made, but I needed to change my thinking still a little bit more. And I found that the group masters class, you created that just at the perfect time for me. I really feel things just happen at the right time. And now
I love your thinking. I mean, I really want everybody, as they're listening to you talk, to realize that the way that you talk to, when you're talking to me, I want people to realize how the way that you talk is very encouraging to yourself, not just to me, but that's why you have made the progress that you've made, because of how you speak to yourself and you speak about things.
Oh, and it didn't start this way.
I understand that.
But
I understand.
That encouragement, and you shared with me while we were coaching Kristen Neff on self-compassion. Yeah. And I'm not unique to many of your podcast listeners. We tend to be harder on ourselves than we will anyone else. Yeah. You take your best friend, you never talk to your best friend the way we talk to ourselves. And after, the master's class and all that, I continue to exercise that. And, continue to learn each day. And it's just fun. It's not easy. I'm not going to say easy. And I'm not going to say we don't have times that still we have negative feelings. Mm-hmm. But the fun part is being able to recognize that something is an issue and I can solve it.
I love that.
So I think, you reached out to me recently, and what I've been working on is that, with the current state of affairs, I'm working from home. Yes. We're recording this during the COVID pandemic.
That's right.
And I've been working from home. And I really drove myself into my work. There's a lot of there was some fear coming up and a whole change. And, working in an office environment, people stop by and say hi, and we work on things, and you get little breaks. And what I found myself doing was working really, really, really hard.
Interesting. So I want to stop for 1 minute, and because I know where we're going to go with this, and I love it. Okay. So I would say by the time that we were through working, you had mastered how to use the model. You really knew how to sit with feelings, and we did a lot of work, which I think is really relevant right now, just to talk about that. During our individual coaching, you really learned how to feel negative emotion. You really learned how to process it, and it wasn't something that you knew how to do before. And the reason is what I remember is that you felt that it would mean that you were weak.
Yes.
If you let yourself feel emotions, negative emotion.
And just to share with your listeners, there was one time when we were talking about a time that I was very disappointed. I used the word disappointed. And you said, is that really true, Julie? And I said, no, I'm devastated.
Yeah.
How far is it in that emotional scale?
Yep. I remember that. And where you were trying to kind of make it laugh, even though you were.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, we tend to, I tend to make it less. Well, my life is good. I have nothing to complain about.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I, indulge myself in a negative feeling?
Mm-hmm.
And you said, well, sit with that. And I cried.
That's right.
Because a devastating feeling deserves tears.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
And I went to say, oh, well, it'll be okay. And you said, stop. I don't know that you said this. This is my memory. This is not probably exactly, but stop. I don't want you to discount your feelings, and I don't want you to, put up a barrier around them right now. I want you to lean into them. We're going to end our call here. I want you to lean in them and really feel them.
Right. And we did some of the work on the call with the processing, right?
Yes, we didn't shorten our call. You were guiding me through this entire process and helping me go through it because I hadn't developed those skills on my own.
You learned how to stay away from them.
I learned how to buffer them, and mainly with food.
Yeah. Amazing. And that once you process it, then I remember telling you, don't try to leave it yet.
Yes.
Right? Like when we were getting off the phone.
Absolutely. Because I was going to. I was ready.
Yeah.
And you knew me well enough.
Yeah, I remember.
Said, don't do that.
I remember.
And so I sat for a while and cried.
I remember.
And then I thought, what is the most nourishing thing I could do for myself right now?
Yeah.
And it was to go for a walk.
I remember you sent me an email. I remember the whole thing.
And I went for a walk. And as I was walking, we don't have a lot of people I walk into, but as I was walking, it was kind of like, I use the analogy of an earthquake. You have that first boost of emotion.
Yeah.
And then it may reoccur. It may disappear, but it may reoccur. And each time it's a little less. But I still remember walking and crying occasionally. Yep. And then by the time I got home from my walk, the peace was there.
I remember because you sent me an email and took me through your process. And I think it's really good for people to hear this, that really the only way to feel better is to let it go through you. It is the only way to peace.
Well, and the thing is that I was always repressing it.
Yeah.
And so it never goes away.
There you go.
What is there the saying? When you repress, it persists.
When you resist, it persists.
Resist it. Thank you for correcting me. My husband always corrects me on sayings, which I love. This goes to show that takes two of us. But that was my life. Mm-hmm. I would resist and it would persist.
Because you thought that was the way for you to be strong and you didn't want to appear weak.
Oh, no. And what others think of you matters.
Yes, Julie.
There's some sarcasm in there for anyone that's not catching it. But, oh, yes.
Say it again.
Oh, that what others think really matters.
Yes.
Yeah. No. And it really was myself. It was my own thinking.
Right.
It was my own judgment on myself. Again, getting back to the self-compassion.
Yeah. Amazing. I
And
just wanted to refresh
yeah,
that.
and I do it all the time now. I had to
Mhm.
realize that at night I would judge myself for being tired.
I remember that too.
It's a night. Why do most people eat at night? We're tired. There's a
I
physiological
remember
response.
that.
We're emotionally tired after the day. And then I would throw myself judgment on it. Well, you shouldn't be tired. You should still have the energy to do X, Y, and Z.
I
And
remember. Yep.
since we ended the master's class,
Yeah.
I chose to leave the master's class
Right.
and knew I would continue my work and knew I could
Of
always
course.
hire you again,
Of course.
um, or return to a class.
Right.
And as I moved into that, I started applying more self-compassion to myself and
So
saying,
let me just stop for 1 second now, because so once we were through working together and you had all the tools and you had worked through urges at night
absolutely.
and learning compassion for yourself and creating much more peace around your weight, I just want people to see that, when you're through working with me, it's not like it ends or it's not like problems stop. Right. It's so what I want you to talk about is how you are continuing and why you still feel peaceful about this, and then what has happened since you started working from home, what has popped up, because before it used to be more about night urges, and I know that you've pretty much worked on that and that the urges at night are pretty slim to nothing. But
Mhm.
what has popped up for you is what I want you to talk about now, to show people that the reason that this is the last time isn't because stuff doesn't come up.
No, but the tools to work through it are there.
Yes.
And, for me, it has allowed me to lean into those negative emotions and
Yes.
not push them away.
Mm,
And those negative emotions really are what drove me with urges.
yep.
And being able to have those experiences and then know after I was, gently guided by you through those, that I could
Yes.
learn to do them myself.
Yes.
And the reason the work keeps going,
Yep.
hopefully for, certainly for me and hopefully for others
I
that
would
work with you,
anybody that's a human being that's alive.
yeah, is that it keeps getting better and better and better. And I would see that in your eyes at times, because the masters group, we had Zoom at that point, and I
Right.
would see it in your eyes, and I'd watch videos of you and things, and I knew you had true peace, and I didn't have that yet.
Hmm.
But after working with you, going through the master's class and continuing to work, it just keeps getting more peaceful and more peaceful and more peaceful. So if you're all in on yourself, have a good guide, and then take those tools and continue to work with them, all I can say is that I've gotten more peace as time goes on and continue to. So here I was working, and
Yes.
my weight has been stable within just a couple of pounds since last November.
Wow.
COVID didn't hit it, didn't start gaining any weight. I would like to be down a few pounds, but I kept saying no. Just allow life to happen and focus on what's the most important. For me, the most important is, what are my urges? What is my eating behavior?
That's really the work I think that you have continued. I think that's what most people end up taking with them too, is allowing urges and handling urges. Because for you, it used to be that they were at night. And then once you started working from home, you talked about that they started popping up again in the middle of the day.
Well, I'm not so sure that they popped up in the middle of the day. Think about it. I'm at work, I'm distracted, there's other people, there's some barriers around your life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not that I'm home all day long.
You're
And
home
so,
all day long with yourself.
yeah, well, my wonderful husband, he's
Well,
just,
what I mean, but you're working
but
kind of in a bubble.
Absolutely. And, with, the technology at work and everything, I get to see people on video and we get to talk and that kind of stuff. And that it's been seamless actually in many, many ways at work, except for actually physically being with people and having some of those parameters. So what I found is that I wasn't eating that much more. Obviously, my weight was stable. Mm-hmm. So urges were there. Mm-hmm. And what I'd find is about 10:30 every day, I wanted to go eat. Mm-hmm. Well, I usually had started work by 6:30 or 7 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And what I was not realizing, and I had heard another person talk about how sometimes we allow ourselves breaks.
I like that.
To go eat because it's an acceptable reason to go eat, right? Mm-hmm. So take brilliant. A break. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, it was like a light bulb went off in my mind. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm having an urge because what I really need is a break.
Yes, that's so brilliant. And that's what I'm saying. It's like even after we're through working together and you've got the tools, you saw it for yourself.
Saw it for myself. Now, like I said earlier, working with you, it would be at light speed. Working on my own, it took me about a month. Mm-hmm. It took me time, and I am fine with that time now.
Good.
And if there's something I feel like I need to go faster with, I know there's resources out there for me.
Of course.
You're a call away.
Of course, but you've got the tools.
But I have the tools.
And so you started noticing these wanting to eat at 10:30 in the morning, and it was actually an urge to take a break because you were working differently at home.
I was working hard, man.
You were working harder and differently at home and not giving yourself time off.
And your brain needs a break.
It's so good to see.
It was my brain and my body saying, Julie, you have been focused for 3.5 hours. What are you doing? It's like neon lights going on. Uh-huh. Only, for me, the neon light is food. And that was an acceptable reason to take a break, right? You got to nourish yourself after all.
Isn't that? And you had the
tools.
What
about that for a thought?
I know, but what I really find so fascinating is that you figured that out for yourself and managed a way like to work it through for you. And that's what I really want everybody to see is that, after you're through working with me, the tools don't go away. As long as you're willing to stay with yourself, which you are, Julie, that's why it is the last time for you, because you just keep figuring it out. So, sometimes things pop up or they're different than what they used to be, or you find something coming up that wasn't there before and you notice it and you notice the urge and then you do the work on it.
And that work on it, I want to share, is not a click of a finger.
Please say more.
That work on it takes a little time. So I would start noticing it, and it's probably taken me several weeks.
Yeah.
So I would sometimes find myself downstairs eating.
Yep.
And it would be like, oh, awareness, come on, Julie, this is what you're doing.
Yep.
Then other times I would find myself aware, and sometimes it depends on your emotional state and your stress at that time.
That's right. So good.
And other times you can just, if you're aware, it's catching yourself in the awareness. Mm-hmm. And then other times I would be aware and I would say, oh, I just need a change of scenery. Get up, walk around, maybe step outside, get a little fresh air, do an exercise or two. Each time it's a little different. But I think that the one thing to share is that I would come to myself with saying, I need to fix this immediately. And so, once I'm aware of it, it should be fixed like that. It doesn't always work that way. You've given podcasts before about laddering up our thoughts.
Right.
And behavior change does not happen immediately.
So good.
We've been doing a behavior for years. We're not going to be able to turn on a dime and change it. And that's where self-compassion comes in.
Oh, Julie, I'm loving this. You're so right.
No? Because then I look at myself, I find myself downstairs eating at 10:30 in the morning. I usually eat around 11:30, but that's earlier. I mean, I have maybe some small grumblings, but I'm only at a 1. I'm not at your 2.
Uh-huh.
And
And you
that
became aware of that.
I became aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
At one point I was fooling myself, oh, you're just hungry early today.
You were just kind of messing with your brain because you
Oh, yeah,
started to use food because really what you wanted is you wanted a break. And that is really the awareness of realizing when you're eating, when you're not really hungry, and then trying to figure out what's going on. And if you're willing to stick with yourself, which you are, then really anything is solvable. Anything.
absolutely. And any of us can do this. Any
Any
listener can
That's
gain
why I have you on
skill.
here, is because I want people to see that you don't need me to be able to do it. Once you have the tools and you've done the work, all you need is to be able to have your own back like you've got your own back.
Absolutely.
And
And be with self-compassion and understanding you're not going to change overnight.
I
And
love
it's
that,
okay.
Julie. I love that,
Because
Julie.
with time, any change is possible.
Oh my God, Julie. I just love that. So, you know, in the last minutes that we have together, I have to tell you that I know that this process of losing over 100 pounds, of us working together, of you moving on, how do you know that this is the last time for you? How do you know?
How do I know? It's just something you know deep in your soul.
Wow.
Any of us, if you just sit quietly, go into yourself, everyone has had that feeling where they've just known.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
And it's that I just know deep in my soul that I will never go back to those other behaviors.
Wow. And I guess that is where the peace comes in. Yes?
Absolutely. And, I'm at a point right now where the peace is so profound. For me, sugar is something that will physiologically create urges.
Mm-hmm.
I know my life is much happier and healthier without sugar. I quit. I have not had any added, and we're talking added processed sugar here.
Of course.
I haven't had any since mid-April,
Mm-hmm.
and that has really helped with me. And each one of us has to figure out what's right in our body, and you help us
Exactly.
with that.
Yes.
And with those changes,
Yeah.
I know that each time there's a different piece that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And why I know it's the last time is that we did the no flour sugar when we were working together, and it was kind of more like, well, I've decided that I'm not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Right now is that, oh, this isn't good for me. I love the way I feel right now. I am making the choice. I'm making the choice with peace, no resistance, no mind chatter.
Yes.
That there is that inner peace that
Mm-hmm.
comes, and I have to say that that peace is something that you just feel and know in your soul.
And it was what you were wanting when you decided to hire me, and you have created that for yourself. And I'm just thinking, it's like when we did the no flour, no sugar, it was to become aware, of how it affects your body. And you never know how you're going to use that tool as time goes on.
Right. And I knew sugar and flour were an issue,
Yeah.
because when in 2014, when I decided I was going to eat healthy for the rest of my
Yeah.
life, I slashed flour and sugar to the USDA recommendations.
Yeah.
And within 3 months, that insatiable hunger that I had, that physiological and
Yeah.
psychological hunger, had pretty much disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was left with was the mind and my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you came in, because I
Mm-hmm.
took care of the physiological part, and the
There
no
you
flour,
go.
no sugar just reinforced it and helped me, but there was
Yep.
still some resistance there.
Yep.
And where you came in were helping me change my thinking,
Yeah.
so that I am now thinking like a thin person.
I love that for you. I love that. Well, you know what? thank you so much for being on my podcast. And thank you so much for working with me, because you're the reason why I love to do this work. It's people like you. So thank you so much for being on my podcast. I love you and thank you.
Well, and thank you for being there as my guide and helping me. And I love you too.
Thank you. Well, guys, I know she is amazing. And I hope that what you got out of it is that the journey really never stops. You just keep learning. You just keep going. And it's not like you don't slip up. That's what Julie was talking about. And different things happen. The things that she worked on when she was working with me in my program is different than the things that she was working on as she was working on her own. Different things come up. But what she said, which I think is most important, is that she had the tools and she knew how to deal with them. And that's what's created so much peace for her. So listen, if you're out there and you're listening to it, and Julie has inspired you, and I am inspiring you to think about the idea of working with me, well, all you have to do is go to drdebbutler.com/work with me. You can set up a mini session, and you and I can find out if my program is what will help you the way it helped Julie. Thank you so much for listening today. And you know what I'm going to say, as I always say every single time. No matter what else you do today, be very, very kind to yourself. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
If you're ready to take your eating issues to another higher, more improved level, well, it's time to talk to my wife, Dr. Deborah. She's helped hundreds and thousands of people. Just visit drdebbutler.com/work with me. You'll get a free consultation with Dr. Deb and find out if coaching and talking to my wife is a solution to your struggles.